Page 2. Edward II by Christopher Marlowe. Page 3. Edward II. Action of the play. Act 1, Scene 1. The scene opens with Gaveston, Edward's favourite in London. He is recalled by Edward by a letter which he reads again. He says that he will care neither for, open quotes, lordly peers, close quotes, nor for the base multitude. Three poor men wish to enter his service. He rejects them haughtily, but thinking that a kind word is always good, he asks them to see him later. Standing alone, he pictures to himself how he will devise pleasures and amusements for his dear, dear king. The king and barons enter, and Gaveston steps aside to overhear the conversation about himself between the king and the nobles. The Earl of Lancaster and the Earl of Warwick are the bitterest enemies of Gaveston. They bitterly oppose the king's desire to have Gaveston back. The two Mortimers, senior and junior, join them in opposing the return of Gaveston to England. The Earl of Kent, half-brother to the king, asks the king to take revenge on the hostile nobles and behead them, quote, for trespass of their tongues, close quotes. This infuriates the nobles, and they threaten to kill Gaveston. When the barons retire, Gaveston comes forward, and the king welcomes him and bestows on him new honours and offices. On the entry of the Bishop of Coventry, the king and his favourite insult and maltreat him. Scene 2. The barons are enraged at the king and Gaveston. They are agitated and angry to know that the Bishop of Coventry has been sent to the Tower as prisoner. They take serious exception to the king's way of tyrannizing over the church. Warwick and Lancaster are particularly grieved that Gaveston has been made Earl of Cornwall, Lord Chamberlain, and Lord of Man. They are joined by the Archbishop of Canterbury, who is angry at the treatment of the Bishop of Coventry, and by Queen Isabel, who is sad that, open quotes, the king regards her not, but dotes upon the love of Gaveston, close quotes. Hearing that the barons are prepared to go so far as to make war upon the king on the issue of Gaveston's banishment, Isabel prefers to suffer in silence. They agree that a council shall banish him. They will meet at the new temple to finalize their plan of action. Scene 3. Gaveston speaks scoffingly, S-C-O-F-F-I-N-G, scoffing, L-Y-Lee, scoffingly, of the earls and barons who are his enemies. He has heard that Lancaster, Warwick, and the two Mortimers are gone to Lambeth to be resolved on his banishment. He says in bitter sarcasm that he cares very little for them. Scene 4. The barons and the archbishop in council at the new temple sign an order of exile when the king and Gaveston enter. The barons insult Gaveston and wonder why the king should dote upon the, open quotes, ignoble vassal, I-G-N-O-B-L-E, ignoble vassal, V-A-S-S-A-L. The king gets angry at the insolence of Mortimer Jr. and threatens him with arrest. At the direction of Lancaster, the attendants of the barons remove Kent and Gaveston. King Edward gets very much excited and declares that his, open quotes, sweet Gaveston, close quotes, shall not part from him. The Archbishop declares that he is the legate of the Pope and wants the king to sign the resolution adopted by the barons to banish Gaveston. If the king disagrees, the Archbishop, open quotes, will presently discharge these lords of duty, page 4, and allegiance to the king. The king, forced to yield, bids the exile an affectionate farewell and appoints him, open quotes, the king, forced to yield, bids the exile an affectionate farewell and appoints him, open quotes, Governor of Ireland, close quotes.
Page 4.
In his anger, he accuses the queen of fondness for Mortimer and refuses to see her till, open quotes, Gaveston be repealed, close quotes. Left alone, the queen laments that even if she succeeds in her pleading with the lords and Gaveston is recalled, then too the king will remain attached to his favourite and will care little for her. When the barons re-enter, she tells them all that happened and asks Mortimer to take up her cause, open quotes, as thou lovest and tenderest me, close quotes, and to persuade the barons to agree to the recall. With the help of the younger Mortimer, she obtains, open quote, the repeal, close quotes, of Gaveston. When the king re-enters, the queen gives him the good news. The king is pleased and reconciled to the lords. He makes Mortimer Jr. Lord Marshal of the realm. In his joy, the king looks forward to the marriage of Gaveston with his niece. The barons seem appeased for the time being. Yet the haughty last words of the younger Mortimer foreshadow the coming storm. He will fight and go to any extreme, but will never yield to the base upstart Gaveston. Act 2, Scene 1. The younger Spencer and Baldock, servants of the late Earl of Gloucester, determined to attach themselves to Gaveston, open quotes, who hath the favour of the king, close quotes, open quotes, their lady, close quotes, King Edward's niece, goes to meet her lover, Gaveston. Scene 2. The king, queen, and the barons await Gaveston at Teignmouth. He speaks of the coming tournament of the barons to be held in honour of Gaveston. He does not care that the haughty king of France has attacked the English estate of Normandy in France. He wishes to hear of the devices, within quotes, devices on the shields of the barons. Both Mortimer and Lancaster describe the devices chosen by them with a symbolical reference to the ruin that the king is inviting on himself by harbouring the canker Gaveston and by his own folly. The king gets very angry and charges them with disloyalty. Gaveston enters and he is scornfully addressed. He in return scoffs at, within quotes, the base leaden earls. Close quotes. Mortimer Jr. wounds Gaveston with his sword. The king departs, determined to make war upon his barons and tame them. The barons go, within quotes, to their castles, close quotes, and soon, within quotes, are up in arms, close quotes. They send their heralds to proclaim their purpose to the king and propose to rouse the common people against the king and his favourite. A messenger comes from Scotland to say that Mortimer Senior has been taken prisoner by the Scotch. The barons are determined that the king should find the ransom money. When the king re-enters, the barons quarrel with the king over the ransom of Mortimer Senior. The king refuses to give the ransom money. They angrily charge the king with frivolity and inefficiency. They depart to levy arms to fight the king. They angrily charge the king with frivolity and inefficiency. They depart to levy arms to fight the king. Kent asks the king to see how his love for Gaveston has become the cause of the ruin of the realm, and the king himself. Angrily, the king banishes Kent, and he goes over to the barons. Spencer and Baldock are taken into service by the king. Scene 3. Kent joins the barons. The barons are assembled with their soldiers before Teignmouth Castle. The barons are about to scale the walls and seize Gaveston, but will not touch the king. Scene 4. Within Teignmouth Castle, things take a serious turn for the king and his favourite. The king and Gaveston take hasty farewell. The king leaves his queen with a taunt that she is devoted to Mortimer. The queen is alone in the castle, lamenting her lot, when the barons enter and come up to her. The queen tells them that the king and Gaveston have fled to Scarborough, Scarborough, Scarborough. The barons will chase page 5, Gaveston, and take ship to Scarborough. The queen stays alone in Teignmouth. The queen in a soliloquy laments that in vain she looks for love at Edward's hand. She would rather live with Mortimer forever. Yet she will try to win her husband's love. In case she fails, she will cross over to France with her little son and complain there to the French king, her brother. Scene 5. In the country near Scarborough Castle, Gaveston is seen running away from his pursuers, Warwick, Lancaster, Pembroke, Mortimer, and their soldiers. He is, however, overtaken by Warwick and Lancaster. They bid their men remove Gaveston. Warwick says that since he is the favourite of the king, he would be honoured by being beheaded. At this stage, Arundel, Arundel, comes in as messenger from the king to say that the king has heard that Gaveston is prisoner in their hands. He has requested them through Arundel to allow him to see Gaveston once for the last time, and promises to return him faithfully. Warwick is unwilling to let Gaveston go and see the king. But at the request of Arundel, Pembroke undertakes to accompany Gaveston and bring him back again. Warwick ominously utters that Gaveston will not see the king. Open quotes, if Warwick's wit and policy prevail. Close quotes. Gaveston is made over to the charge of Pembroke. Pembroke leaves Gaveston in charge of James, one of the attendants of Pembroke, for the night. Act 3, Scene 1. The Earl of Warwick, with a band of armed men, falls upon Gaveston in the open country through which Gaveston is being taken by James and other attendants of Pembroke. Gaveston is carried off for execution. Scene 2. Near Boroughbridge, 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 in Yorkshire, Edward, with his favourite Spencer Jr. and other nobles, wait anxiously for the news about Gaveston. Spencer excites the king to take revenge on the rebellious barons. Spencer Sr. comes in and is taken into the king's service. The queen and little Edward enter with Leveune, a Frenchman, in the service of English king. The queen informs her husband that her brother, the King of France, has been displeased with him, open quotes, because your highness had been slack in homage, close quotes. It is decided that the king and the prince will go to France to settle the matter with the King of France on behalf of Edward. When they are gone, Arundel comes and tells the king that Gaveston has been slain by the wicked Warwick. The king is shocked and enraged. He is provoked by the nobles to take vengeance upon these wicked barons. The barons send their herald to tell the king that they demand the banishment of Spencer. The king is incensed at the arrogant attitude of the barons. The king and their army go out to fight the barons at Boroughbridge. Scene 3. In the Battle of Boroughbridge, the barons are defeated. The king recovers his power and the Spencers rule as favourites. The king orders execution or imprisonment of the hostile barons. Spencer Jr. sends Leveune back to France with sufficient treasure to bribe the French lords so that none of them will take up the cause of the queen, who now makes friends in France. The queen Spencer knows is preparing to cross the seas and land with an army in England and depose the king in favour of her son. Act 4, Scene 1. Kent is driven from his brother's presence. He waits near the Tower of London for Mortimer. Mortimer escapes from the tower and they too sail for France. Page 6, Scene 2. The Queen regrets that her brother, the King of France, has rejected her prayer for help. The French lords, bribed with English money, give her no support. John of Hainault, 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 meets the Queen and invites her and her son to Hainault, where his brother, the Marquis of Hainault, will give them shelter. Kent and Mortimer join the Queen. Mortimer assures the Queen that if she lands in England, there are friends who will join her and help her against her enemies. Sir John promises her money, men, and friends so that she may land in England against the king and his flatterers. Scene 3. The king is pleased with the execution of the rebels. The king is satisfied that his queen in getting no help from France. The king is satisfied that his queen is getting no help from France. He is, however, disturbed to know that Mortimer has escaped from the tower. A messenger from Louvain comes to say that the queen is at Hainault in Flanders and has been joined by Kent and Mortimer. The king shows his eagerness to meet the army of the queen and prepares to move to Bristol Castle. Scene 4. The queen and her friends have landed in England near Harwick. Harwick. She regrets that she had to go to war with her own countrymen. Mortimer Jr. asks the queen to shed these soft sentiments. He calls upon the lords to swear allegiance to Prince Edward and proceed to avenge the wrongs done by the king to the queen and the prince. They now proceed to, open quotes, remove the flatterers from the king, close quotes. Scene 5. The king, Baldock, and Spencer Jr. are stricken with panic at the approach of the queen and her party to Bristol Castle. They fly away. Kent comes upon the scene and repents that she has left his brother and joined Mortimer. When the queen, Mortimer, and the rest appear, Kent wants to know what would be the fate of Edward in his fall. Mortimer replies that they will deal with the king, open quotes, as the realm and parliament shall please, close quotes. Spencer Sr. is brought as a prisoner. Mortimer orders his execution. Mortimer seeks the help to Rice ap Howell for finding out the king, with whom will be found Spencer Jr., Baldock, and the others. Scene 6. The king, Spencer Jr., and Baldock have taken shelter in the Abbey of Neath, Neath, Neath. They are in disguise. Spencer knows that a certain Mower, 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 has observed them. Leicester, with Rice ap Howell, Rice, Rice, ap Howell, Howell, and the Mower come in and arrest the king and Spencer and Baldock by order of the queen and Mortimer. The king is led to Kenilworth Castle. Spencer raves in fury, but Baldock asks him, open quotes, to pay nature's debt with cheerful countenance, close quotes. They are led to the town by Rice. Act 5, Scene 1. The king is kept at Kenilworth Castle under the charge of Leicester. The Bishop of Winchester and Trussell, 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 asked the king to relinquish the throne in favour of his son. The king raves in helpless anger and gives up the crown after much hesitation. Berkeley arrives and takes over the charge of the king from the rather compassionate Leicester. Berkeley asks the king to accompany him to Berkeley Castle that very night. Scene 2. The queen and Mortimer, in private conversation, show their designs. They propose to crown young Edward king without delay, and Mortimer will be his protector. They plan the king's murder. Mortimer gives the king in charge to Matrevis and Gournay in the hope that hard treatment will wear him out. King says that he will try to rescue King Edward from the castle. Page 7. Scene 3. Edward is weary of being removed from place to place and feels that Mortimer aims at his death. He has been kept in a dungeon full of rotten, dirty things. He wants a little water to drink and clean himself with. The two villains shave him with ditch water. Kent tries to rescue the king, but he is overpowered by the soldiers and led away to the court of Mortimer. Scene 4. Mortimer is convinced that, open quotes, the king must die or Mortimer goes down, close quotes. Mortimer engages a professional murderer named Lightborn. He arranges the coronation of the new king. He is glad that as protector he will rule over both the young king and of course his mother. Kent is brought as prisoner. Young Edward pleads for him, but Mortimer orders Kent away for execution. Scene 5. Lightborn comes to Berkeley Castle. He is given the key of the prison. The king has been standing in water and filth and has not slept. Lightborn asks him to sleep. He sleeps but wakes up. Then the king is pressed under a table and is thus done to death. Scene 6. Matrevis gives the news of Edward's murder to Mortimer. Young Edward comes to know of his father's murder. He confronts Mortimer and charges him with treachery and responsibility for the murder. He orders Mortimer to instant execution as a traitor. Isabel is ordered to be confined in the tower. Mortimer's severed head is put on the hearse of Edward. Young Edward then goes to mourn to the funeral of his father.